We're doing a deep dive into a memoir that, honestly, it tackles this really agonizing and, I think, super relatable modern problem.
Mm.
You know, the feeling of being trapped in a life that looks amazing on paper, but inside it just feels totally empty.
Yeah, the golden cage.
Exactly. The book is called Transformation, and it's all about the journey of TheReal Rayster, who makes this huge leap from being a successful software engineer in Manila to what he ends up calling a soul engineer.
And our mission here really is for you, specifically for the listener who's maybe a little skeptical of self-help books or, anything that seems a bit too spiritual.
Right.
You want something authentic. You want to know if a book that promises transformation actually delivers the raw, unfiltered story, the breakdown, the rebuilding, or if it's just, more spiritual bypassing.
So we're really digging in to see if it's the real deal.
Exactly.
And the whole conflict for Rayster starts early. I mean, he did everything he was supposed to do. He followed the path right, excelled in school, got the good corporate job in Manila.
And that commute. He mentions the brutal commute from Las Piñas to Boni.
Oh, yeah. He really paints a picture of that grind.
And what's so fascinating is how the memoir just lays out that classic conflict between external success and your internal reality.
Yeah.
Rayster wasn't failing. He was highly functional, a textbook example of an achiever. But he describes this deep internal void, a total disconnect, where all the achievements just did nothing for him inside. He felt like what would you say, a cog in a machine.
And he didn't just sit there. He actually tried to fix it from the inside. He was stuck on these boring legacy systems.
The old stuff.
Yeah, the old stuff. And he saw a way out. He wanted to move to new tech like Java or .NET, so he put in a request for a transfer.
And that denial, it wasn't just a career hiccup. The book frames it as this profound, almost philosophical blow. He'd always believed that if you work hard and play by the rules, you get results. And when they said no, he realized that, corporate loyalty wasn't going to buy him any purpose.
So that stagnation was really the trigger. It just sent his mental health into a nosedive. The whole foundation he'd built his life on was a trap.
It was a trap, which brings up a good question for anyone listening who's skeptical. If the corporate world was so bad, why not just quit?
Right. Why stick around?
And the book makes it clear it wasn't a sudden thing. It was gradual. It was fueled by these external lifelines.
Yeah.
The first one was this mentor, Miss Chris, back in 2011.
Miss Chris, yeah, she was the first step, right? She introduced him to meditation.
Which became a constant for him. 14 years, he says.
Wow. And other stuff, too, like vision boards, manifesting. She did try to push him into sales.
She did, but what's key is that when he realized sales just wasn't his thing, she backed off.
Oh.
She accepted it.
Yeah.
And that showed him that guidance could be flexible. It didn't have to be this rigid corporate top-down thing.
And then the guidance just gets weirder, more esoteric.
A lot more, yeah.
By 2014, he's still a software engineer, but he meets this coworker, Pat, who's into all this metaphysical stuff.
Law of attraction, the missing chapters of the Bible, all that.
Exactly. And Pat is the one who connects him to a psychic.
Vel. The psychic he meets on his 24th birthday. And this, for the practical listener, this is probably a moment where you have to pause.
Yeah, this is where you might lose some people. She gives him this really specific prophecy that he has potential in writing and business.
And Rayster, writing the memoir years later, he looks back and says she was tapping into his higher self.
So how do we, for the skeptic listening, how do we process that, a psychic prediction?
I think that's a fair question. And the importance of it isn't really about whether it's mystically true or not. It's about its function.
Okay.
For someone who feels totally aimless, getting a specific direction writing business from some outside source, it's huge psychological validation. It gave him permission to believe those little whispers inside were real.
Even if his day-to-day life didn't support them at all.
Exactly. It was a roadmap handed to him years before he was ready to actually use it.
And that roadmap pretty quickly leads to travel. It starts in 2015, a trip to Singapore with his sister. That was the first crack in the corporate shield.
Absolutely. The memoir captures his social anxiety so well there. The birthday surprise at Marina Bay Sands.
Oh, the waiter's singing to him?
Yes. He was so mortified, he said he wanted to crawl under the table. All that control he had in his corporate life just evaporated in public.
But then, right after that, something small happens that changes everything.
The elderly Chinese lady.
Yeah, a complete stranger just comes up and wishes him a happy birthday. And for him, that was this huge insight, the world is not a bad place.
And that was the pivot. He realized his sister, who he loves, she still represented safety and the limits of his old life. That little moment with a stranger gave him the courage to finally plan a real solo trip.
Which he does to Ilocos Norte, still in the Philippines. And that's where he figures out that solitude wasn't loneliness.
And you see this little spark of defiance in him. The tour clerk gives him this pitying look and says something like, "It gets lonely on the road, doesn't it?"
So patronizing.
Totally. And that one comment just solidified his resolve. It became about proving to himself that he could be alone without feeling that same emptiness he felt at his desk job.
And that new strength gets tested immediately in El Nido. He decides to climb Tara Cliff with a friend, Tony.
And he is so not prepared.
Not at all. He's in flimsy boat shoes and a stupid sando. He's panicking, hitting his physical limits on these sharp rocks.
I mean, if you look at it as part of the transformation, this is him activating that warrior archetype. He's forced out of his head and into his body.
He had to be.
And he learns that the best experiences aren't on a spreadsheet. They're on the other side of fear.
So the search deepens. He travels internationally again, but now he's looking for direction, not just adventure. He meets a guy in Osaka, a salaryman named Kaito.
Right. And Kaito confesses this deep, burning desire to go back to Africa to finish what I started there.
And that just hits Rayster so hard.
It's a perfect moment of synchronicity. Kaito's desperation for his mission just highlights Rayster's lack of one. It makes him ask, what is my Africa?
What's my unfinished thing?
Yes. The thing only he can do that has nothing to do with climbing a corporate ladder.
And this whole travel section wraps up in Taiwan. He meets a Japanese girl, Kaya, who takes him to the Rainbow Village. And on his birthday, in March 2023, he's at a festival and sees a shooting star. He calls it a cosmic wink.
And, whether you believe in cosmic winks or not, the message he took was clear. Life was finally affirming his choice to leave that corporate trance. But that's not the end. The book argues so powerfully that real transformation doesn't just come from nice trips and shooting stars. It requires a complete and total breakdown.
Which brings us to the awakening section, age 33, the year 2023. He calls it a year of endings and beginnings, and it is devastating.
It's a triple loss. Just brutal. He loses his dog, Rachel, his companion for 11 years, to kidney failure.
And he notes she passed away at 7:45 p.m., the exact same time as her first seizure. It's so heartbreaking. And at the same time, he loses his Aunt Bee. And then his own health issues start up, forcing him to cancel travel plans.
So he loses his control.
He loses all external stability. And when that happens, you're just violently forced to go inward.
And that's what leads him to the 10-day Vipassana silent retreat in Cavite. This is the final confrontation. Not with a cliff, but with the trauma he thought he'd buried.
His initial reaction there says so much about his old life. He's nervously checking his smartwatch.
Watching his heart rate and blood pressure spike in the silence.
Think about that. He's trying to manage this deep internal panic with quantifiable data. He's still trying to solve a soul problem with a spreadsheet.
He even needs support from the teacher just to cope. But the real crash, the necessary one, comes on day 4. Around midnight, he describes it as just drowning in pure terror.
That's the moment. That's the transformation. The denial shatters. The silence forced all that trauma stored in his body to just erupt.
It's when he realizes the body remembers what the mind tries to forget. Yes. And in that breakdown, he has these terrifying visions of his father's pain, his agony, and he finally understands this deep, inherited trauma he's been carrying his whole life without knowing it.
Which is why the book's promise to you, the skeptical listener, is its honesty. It does not skip over the pain.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
This is not a feel-good, fluffy book. There are explicit content warnings for a reason. He talks about mental illness, psychedelic use, the agony of those retreats, severe trauma.
He details his father's suicide, a high school betrayal. It's all in there.
It's a story about actual healing, not just aspiring to it.
He talks about learning to embrace vulnerability, that his mission was to integrate these 4 masculine archetypes: king, warrior, magician, lover.
And that's the key for any high achiever listening who feels trapped. Rayster admits he was used to getting his way through his intellect. He had to learn that external success means nothing without internal alignment. This book is for the person who needs to understand that you have to break the old structure before you can rebuild an authentic one.
So really, the transformation story is a roadmap. It's about learning to trust your intuition over a spreadsheet and accepting that real change. It requires a demolition phase. You can't just wallpaper over the cracks.
And we could circle all the way back to Kaito, the salaryman in Japan. Rayster was so moved by his desperate need to go back to Africa and finish his purpose. So if you're listening right now and you feel trapped in a life someone else designed for you, You have to ask yourself,
Hmm.
what is your Africa?
Yeah.
What's that place or that project or that purpose you started, or maybe never even let yourself start, that you need to go back and finish to finally make your outside world match your inside world?
That is a powerful question to sit with. If this journey, this honest journey from software engineer to soul engineer resonates with you, you can find the book, Transformation. Just search for the author, TheReal Rayster, on Amazon or social media. We hope this deep dive helps you find the courage for your own transformation.